Good morning, everybody. Shane McCusker here, Intelligence Software. Welcome to our fortnightly webinar series, the start of a new series that I'm doing, really talking about recruitment technology and all the things that we can do to try and help people recruit better, recruit smarter, and over the next period of time, we'll be looking at all sorts of interesting things. And today we're going to be talking about using the internet to source for candidates and source for vacancies. I'm going to show a couple of different ways of doing that through Google, through LinkedIn, and through a couple of tools that I've invented. And we'll see what the differences are, what the benefits are, what the disadvantages are, and some of the techniques you can use to try and get the most out of it. Okay, first of all, I'm going to just mention a little bit about me, because I know there's a lot of people who, some of you will know me hopefully, and some of you possibly don't. So it's good to make new friends. I'd say my name is Shane McCusker. I run a company called Intelligence Software, and I develop software for recruitment agencies. It's CRM software, it's applicant tracking software, but really it's software designed to help recruitment agencies make more money. If you're interested in software, by all means come and talk to me. That's the end of my advertising message for today. The other things that I get involved in doing, I'm also fairly heavily involved in running, involved in a couple of LinkedIn groups. I run the South African Recruiters Group. We've passed our 2,000 member mark this week. It's one of the most active recruitment groups in South Africa. It's the biggest recruitment group in South Africa. I also do a bit with the Irish Recruiters Group, Declan Fitzgerald, who runs that. I've been got involved in running some of the Belfast meetups for that. And I do other things on LinkedIn, a few other cool groups that I'm involved in. I also ran one of the True conferences in South Africa last November. We ran two True essays in November time, and we had about 170 people involved in that. It was very exciting. I also write a bit of a blog page, which to be honest is more a case, it's a repository for the recordings of these webinars. It's on my website, which is www.intel-sw.com, and you can follow me on Twitter when I get round to it on @intelligence, spelled with a 1. So that's all about me. But anyway, enough about me. Let's move on to today. We'll be talking about, well, a number of things really, but the fundamental of today is talking a little bit about Boolean search. For my sins, a long, long time ago, I used to be an academic. I used to be an electronic engineer, actually, and I taught electronic engineering. And this concept of Boolean search was predominantly used to me in the sense as a form of mathematics, without wanting to get you too upset early on. And I used to actually have to teach this to engineers because it's, if you think of ones and nuts and how computers work, that's what Boolean's all about. And I struggled valiantly to try and teach it to some undergraduate students. And so for a long time I was actually quite reluctant to build some of the techniques into intelligence and the software we do, but it's become mainstream now, so even recruiters and lots of other people use Boolean, and really it's very simple. You use it every day just in normal English language because it's about using the words and or not. And that's the basic fundamentals. There's different operators and different things you can do, but whenever you're looking for something, I'm looking for, as we'll see later on, a quantity surveyor and somebody who lives in London, or I'm looking for a quantity surveyor or a QS or a member of the Royal Institute of Surveyors or whatever, and I'm not looking for somebody who works in the state agency. Okay, so you use the words and or not in English, and really that's all the mystery about Boolean searches. Boolean is a form, it's an Irish guy called Boole, Mr. Boole, I can't remember what his first name was. He invented it, and it's just a form of mathematics, but really it's one of these things that somebody's put the name to. You use it all day, every day. It's just about using and or and not or negating operators, and it allows you to create these searches and ways of doing things. Anyway, enough said. Let's jump in and see how it works in practice. Oh, let's close that one down. Now, let's think about Google. I love Google. Google is one of my favorite pieces of software in the world, and the reason I like it so much is that it is, on the surface of it, such a simple product. You've got this one little search bar up at the top. You type in whatever your heart desires, and Google will go and get it for you, and it'll get you millions and millions of page results, albeit Google's results are limited to 1,000 pages. If you're ever bored enough to keep on stepping through all the different pages, most people rarely do that. Most people look at the top 10, and if it's not there, then they change their search string and look for something else. Terminology. This bit up here is what I would call a search string, and we'll be talking about Boolean strings, which is basically a search string only using either the words and or not, or sometimes some operators. Okay. Google, however, and this is one of the things that makes me So enamored by Google, despite the fact it looks so easy to use, what actually is going on underneath is ferociously complicated. When you think about it, if you type in a word into Google and it goes off searching the internet and coming back with a gazillion results, I mean, that's quite some feat, and it does it in a few seconds. When you think about it, the internet is not a small thing to be able to index and search, and it does it very well. So let's see what happens. Say, for example, I'm a recruiter and I'm looking for a quantity surveyor, and I type in quantity surveyor and do my search. And according to Google, I'm getting, well, over 6 million results. Well, that's not massively useful to me. This is the big problem with searching. Whenever you search, you get lots and lots of results. And no doubt in my 6 million odd results, I'll explain that number in a moment in time, I will have some wonderful quantity surveyors. Unfortunately, they are buried in a massive haystack with a very, very small number of needles. So my problem with searching tends not to be about finding results, it tends more to be about not finding the results I don't want. Google has changed greatly in the last period of time because Google's results vary from person to person. Google knows who I am. You can see on this Google search screen, it actually has my name because it knows that I have a profile. And some of these buttons, which may or may not appear, Google has rolled this out in some countries and not others, but they add in personal results, so it tailors it to what I'm looking for. If you ever pay attention to Google ads when they come up, they're actually scarily accurate with regards to what you may or may not be interested in. Google knows an awful lot about you and what you search for, and it uses all that information when it's returning results to you. Anyway, let's get back to this Google search string, and we'll see if we can improve upon what we're doing here. Now, the first thing I'm going to say is that most people just type in what they're looking for, do a search, see what comes up. If it suits them, great. If not, move on. But I'm going to try and help things out a little bit. Whenever I type in quantity surveyor, you're actually using a Boolean expression there. You're actually saying to Google, I want a web page with the word quantity on it, and I want and also the word surveyor. So it's actually quantity and surveyor is what I'm searching for. Okay. Now in this instance, Google prioritizes and says, okay, but first of all, I want to see the phrase quantity surveyor, but it will then go on and look for the word quantity or the word surveyor. But to make sure that I only get that phrase, I can surround it by quotation marks. And this will change my search results, only subtly in this instance because of the fact that it's going to be looking for the phrase first of all. But you'll see how whenever you put things within quotation marks that are phrases, it will, generally speaking, help Google out in terms of telling it exactly what it is you want. Now, as we can see from the first page, this Wikipedia is a brilliant way, by the way, if you want to try and understand what a job does. Lots of people recruit for quantity surveyors and they say, well, what does a quantity surveyor do? A quantity surveyor does not survey quantities. They do something much more complicated than that. And you can go in and read about what they do and find out. And even just looking here, I can realize that a quantity surveyor brackets QS. A quantity surveyor is also known as a QS. So I'm looking for a quantity surveyor. I type in quantity surveyor or QS. So I'm using an OR operator. I've capitalized that, as in OR as in capital letters. My feeling on it, some people argue with me this one, I don't think on Google it makes a lot of difference to be in uppercase or lowercase. However, in other searches that we do today, in LinkedIn and on a custom search, it does matter. So I think it's good practice to separate your operators, these words and or, and capitalize them because it lets you know where you are. The search terms themselves, QS, I have an argument with myself how important it is whether you capitalize things or not. I don't think it matters that much because Google tends to be very fuzzy about what it's looking for. Okay, if I say quantity surveyor QS, well, that's all well and good. But say, for example, I want a quantity surveyor in London. If I type in and London, oops, again, it's going to improve my search. However, this is confusing to Google, and this is, let's get our Boolean operators right. If you say that in English, that can mean one of two things. You know that a QS is a quantity surveyor. So if I say quantity surveyor or QS and London, London applies to both quantity surveyor and QS. But from a computer's point of view, it may not know that. And so it says, well, you might mean quantity surveyor or QS in London. In other words, any quantity surveyor anywhere or a QS that is specifically in London. And to define that better, I can use brackets. Okay, so we're starting to get the fundamentals of what we're looking for here. You can put brackets around things. You generally need to use brackets if you're using both and or together. Now, one thing that Google does, and this is quite useful to know, is that the word and usually isn't needed that much because it really doesn't make a difference to your search results. If Google doesn't have an operator there, it just assumes it's an and it puts one in for you. So quantity surveyor or QS, close brackets, London is going to get you quantity surveyors. It implies the and. Let's see, what else can we put in? This is part of the thought processes of a sourcer. You have to really think outside the box in terms of quantity surveyors may not have quantity surveyor on their CV. A quantity surveyor could use the phrase quantity surveying, which is a different phrase, and you should put that in, although Google will try and compensate. As we can see from this very first result here, quantity surveying is actually there. Even though quantity surveyor is the phrase we're actually looking for. Google's quite clever on that. Other searches from the likes of LinkedIn tend to apply a different sort of logic to it. But there are other phrases altogether which might fit in, like RICS, the Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors, could appear on a quantity surveyor CV. If I put that, it changes my search results a little bit. Okay. So those are, thinking about the different phrases that appear is very, very, very important. You want to think about as many different ways to put it in, and you can build up these OR strings quite some way. There is a limitation in Google. It'll go up to, I think it's about 32 different phrases, and there's a character limitation as well. But that means you can put quite a few words in there. So put in as many different things as you want. London as well. I mean, somebody may not have London. They may have England or one of the, Hammersmith, or an area within London, or define it in a different way. So you may want to put in brackets and put in or some other location in London. Okay, so hopefully that gets the sense of where we are with regards to the basic operators. I'll go on. I'm going to talk about some of the other specific Google operators in a little while, but before I do that, I just want to see what happens. This result isn't really working for me that much, because even though I'm putting this stuff in, I'm not really getting too many CVs here. I'm not finding too many people. And yes, you can start to improve things. You stay London CV and you put in CV, and you're going to start trying to pull out, things where hopefully I'll get more chance of getting a CV there. You can see some of these websites are now coming up as job boards. London CV. I can start negating words. Remember I said Boolean was and an or and also not. To apply a not, is if I go minus sign job or minus jobs, I'm hopefully going to remove most of the job board listings, and you're going to start to see more and more chances of getting a CV. And even though I'm not getting results here, you expand this thinking on, and you'll start to get a whole lot more interesting things coming up there. Anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to circumvent all that, because obviously there's a place where we know it's much easier to find people, and that's a website called LinkedIn. And I'm going to take the same search result and show you how, even though Google isn't, it's delivering still so many results that it's still problematic to find what I'm looking for. On LinkedIn, if I put in that phrase, quantity surveyor or QS or RTS and London, and run my search, and what I'm going to get here are 5,000 LinkedIn pages, and I'm using the same operators, quantity surveyor within quotation marks, or it must be capitalized for LinkedIn search. So if it's OR lowercase, it isn't going to work, or I say London. And I've even got filters now. So this is actually in some senses an improvement on the Google results, because of the fact that it's only going to get me LinkedIn profiles. It's going to get me people that hopefully are quantity surveyors. Wendy there, I know Wendy. Wendy's actually a recruiter for quantity surveyors, so that's why she's coming up there. But some of these other people, you can see Mark Rose there, second degree connection, senior quantity surveyor. LinkedIn's brilliant for this. This is a really good way to search. But LinkedIn limits the number of people I can see to 100. It starts with the people that are in my connection group, although I can remove them from the search. I can go and look for specifically people that are members of third degree connections to everybody else, and that will, hopefully my search result will change as a result of that. There we go. Okay, so now I'm going to start to see people that I'm less well connected to, which is good. LinkedIn also limits my ability to get full information of these people. Look at all these third degree connections. It's only giving me their first name and their letter. Now, Google doesn't do that. Whenever you search Google, Google doesn't care if I'm connected to these people or not. It doesn't know. And so it just gives me everything, because all these people on LinkedIn have a public profile. Whenever I go to it through LinkedIn, I'm getting their full profile, but it's limited due to the fact that I'm a third degree connection away from this person. So LinkedIn search is really good. If you recruit for quantity surveyors in London, then I would expect you to have a reasonably developed network of quantity surveyors in London, and therefore you're going to see lots of first and second degree connections within that industry. So it's very useful to go and use LinkedIn along with Google and use the two search engines in combination just to see where you get to. But in both circumstances, this and or not logic still applies. By the way, LinkedIn also uses this negative word before a search. So if I say, but I don't want, I'm trying to think of something I don't want, estate agent. And the reason I don't want estate agent is because RICS also applies to estate agents. I want a contract quality surveyor or professional quality surveyor. And you can see that changes my result set around by putting this minus sign in front of estate. Sorry, I shouldn't have a space there. That'll be quiet. That wasn't working. You don't face after the minus sign, quotation marks, and a modified search result. Okay, now I'm going to fly my own flag a little bit. Google has some advantages because of the fact you get more results and because it's not related to your search, and also because Google searches different parts of the profile. LinkedIn doesn't allow you to search some of the languages, for example, that appear on people's profiles now, and it limits your ability to search all the keywords that are appearing on somebody's record. That's a double-edged sword in the sense that LinkedIn does allow you to say, okay, I only want to search their current job title, and you can't really do that to the same extent with Google, although you can. But what I invented is, this is my website, intel-sw.com, and the reason I'm starting from here is because I want you to remember this URL. If you go to the bar at the top, intel-sw.com/search, SEARCH, all in lowercase, enter. It brings you to a page on a website, and this is a Google custom search. So remember that URL, intel-sw.com/search. And what this is a search that I wrote. If you're interested in knowing how to do it, just Google custom search, and it allows you to build up operators. But what I wanted to do was get Google to only search for LinkedIn profiles. And if I get Google to only search for LinkedIn profiles, then I'm getting the benefit of having a very elaborate search engine like Google, searching everything to do with LinkedIn, and it can give me the same 1,000 results, although Google's custom search does limit that. It gives me an ability to search all aspects of the profile where LinkedIn doesn't. And so it gives me different results. I'm not saying they're better, I'm not saying they're worse, they're just different. And the way it works is the same sort of process. You put in your quantity surveyor or QS or RICS brackets London, hit search, and it gets me results. And all these results are LinkedIn public profiles. And there we go. But there are different results set to the results set I'm getting from LinkedIn. And if you're doing these searches, it's really good to have multiple approaches to doing these searches, because you'll get different results. You'll find people through this type of search you won't find through LinkedIn. I wouldn't say for one moment you stop using LinkedIn and use this as a preference, but it does something different. And this is a full Google search. One of the things that I didn't mention earlier on is that this and or a not process, which is fundamental Boolean, the search engine supplemented with other things. And this is why it's quite interesting. You can see, for example, because I've typed in the word London, most of the results I'm getting here happen to be in the UK, needless to say. And you'll notice that LinkedIn, all these results, I'll just highlight some of them, they all start with uk.linkedin.com. And Google has this wonderful thing. Now, it's useful in this context, but it's much more useful in Google as a whole. If you only say to yourself, well, London's important, but actually I don't want people, if I was looking for somebody in York in the UK, I don't want people coming up with New York, okay, which they would do if I just type in York. Let's try that. York. run that search, and chances are I'm going to get that coming up in. Okay, so we've got CA is Canada, and we've got also other things. So one way of limiting that is to say, okay, telling this search engine, I only want you to search the uk.linkedin.com, and I can do that using a Google operator called site, S-I-T-E : and it goes uk.linkedin.com, and then I'll hopefully get rid of Canada. Now that all my results are uk.linkedin.com. If in South Africa, it would be ZA. I know we've got a big South African audience here. And if you want to find out their country notes, just Google it. Just type in South Africa LinkedIn, and you'll see that all the pages coming back are going to be za.linkedin.com. And that's quite a good way, because earlier on we said, you know, London could be Hammersmith or wherever it happens to be within London. And, you know, if you only say, I only want to search the UK side of it, then you can get that. This is called, a lovely techie term, an X-ray search. If you use site : something, doesn't have to be LinkedIn, it could be Twitter, it could be Google+, it could be whatever, then it just limits Google to those specific websites, and that's a really useful thing to do. There's a couple of other operators in there which I also find really useful. In URL is a good one to limit the string, so you can get rid of pages that come up on LinkedIn, say for example for jobs or whatever else. And then the other one I quite like is in title, which is really useful for Google, just general Google searches. Okay, now this isn't so much what I'm getting excited about at this moment in time. This is really good for finding candidates for the profile. But more often than not, particularly in recessionary times, finding candidates maybe isn't your biggest struggle. Maybe your biggest struggle as a recruiter is about finding vacancies, because within any recruitment market you've got this balance of demand, supply and demand, and you want to be able to balance that. So what I was interested in doing, I started thinking about this a little while ago, was saying, well, how do we find companies that are going to hire quantity surveyors? How do we approach that problem? And that's really what I wanted to bring you to this page for, because you'll see after I do this search, you've got three buttons at the top. One says all, one says vacancy search, and one says no present job. And these are things you can do with Google Custom Search, which will allow you to build in refinements. If I click on vacancy search, it'll give me LinkedIn profiles, because that's what the search does. But what it actually does with this vacancy search is it gives me people, if you look at the highlighted sections, January 2012 to present, December 2011 to present. These are LinkedIn profiles, January 2012 to present. These are people who have just changed job. Well, just people who've just changed jobs. Sorry, I'm just picking people randomly here. I don't know much about what's going on. Okay, this person works for a company called QS, which is why they're there. Maybe you should find somebody who is actually a quantity surveyor. There we go. Okay, Chris here, he's a surveyor. So what it is, whenever I click on his profile, we've got somebody who's okay, bad example. It's a live demonstration here. Let's try this one. Because what I'm interested in so much where they're working now as where they left. The person, Harrods, January 12, left this company January 12 and was working as a quantity surveyor. So this company has obviously just lost a member of staff. Does that mean that they are now looking to recruit somebody? What's going on there? Why did this person leave? And what I was really interested in doing this search for was to find profiles on LinkedIn of people who have just changed job, so that you can specifically go and target the company that they have come from. And if I know that this company has just lost somebody, what do you do next? Well, again, I'll go back to my search, and I've added something new in for you all. You'll see that up here, it asks for company name. If I put the company name in there and click on search, what it does is it tells me how many people in my network work for that company. I've got 11 people in my network that work for this company called Gardner and Theobald. If I click on all connections, or if I click on one of the names, it'll open up and it'll take me to their profile. And so this is a way, quantity surveyor, Gardner and Theobald. So this is a way that I can say, but once I identify a person who's just changed a job, I can identify the company in which they just left, and then I can identify people that work there. That's one way of doing it. If I click on all 11 connections, it'll open up and it'll give me all the people that work there. This is a LinkedIn search. So I'll be able, hopefully I'll see somebody who's, well, there's an associate in the company, there's executive. So hopefully this way I'll be able to identify the decision maker, the person I need to contact. These are second degree connections to me. So this Eric Johnson here is an associate, second degree connection. Therefore, if I go into his profile, I can see the people that somebody, Andy Hogan, is in my network. He's a first degree connection and he knows Eric Johnson. So there's a direct connection in to that company. So think about this. We've got a search. It starts off with the skills that you're interested in, the skills you recruit for. You do the search. You find candidates who fit that profile. With one button click, you can then identify companies who recruit that skill and have just lost somebody. With putting the company name into the search above, you can get the full list of people that you've got connections to that work in that company. I don't think I have to join the dots any more than that. It's a wonderful way of working to try and get an understanding very, very quickly of the supply and demand balance between skills and between companies who hire. And it's quite an interesting way of working. The other button there, I'll just highlight this one for completeness sake, is no job. And what that was interesting to, I don't care how useful this is, to be perfectly honest. I did it more as a sourcing challenge. But what I was interested in doing was trying to find, if you're involved in the contract market, then you're quite interested in people who are not currently in employment. And what this is a search for profiles, again, quantitative error, QS or RICS, and London, of people who don't have a current job. This may well highlight one of the problems with this type of search. If I'll tell you what the problem is. Okay. So this person, well, if we're looking for a contractor, perfect, we've got one. This person does not have a current job according to LinkedIn, and they're working freelance. So this is somebody that you could approach with regards to saying, well, we've got a contract job, are you interested in it? One thing I was about to say to the difficulties of this type of search is that bear in mind that there's a time lag between when Google searches and whenever and the present, and it's not that long with LinkedIn. It's maybe up to a month, but it means that obviously if I'm searching for people, they were available at the time Google indexed their page. They may not necessarily be available now. So there's a little bit of a time delay between we actually index the search and we get it, but it's still a really useful way of separating things out. Okay, so in summary then, we have talked about Boolean search using the OR operator, the AND operator, using quotation marks to surround phrases, and using brackets to separate your logic between ORs and ANDs, and you build up big strings. You can put those into Google and search, and you'll see how it refines your search results. If you want to eliminate pages from results, use the minus sign, and that'll take keywords out. For example, I think on the vast majority of LinkedIn profile pages, the word jobs appears. So I type a job there and do my search. Probably I've pretty well eliminated my result set. I've got a few profiles there for some reason don't have the word job on it, but you can see how using the minus sign removes the results from your search. Words tend to add to it, ANDs tend to reduce it. We've shown searching on Google. We've shown using the same operators on LinkedIn. Bear in mind it must be capitalized for LinkedIn, and it also must be capitalized for this search, which is a Google custom search. This is on my website, intel-sw.com/search, and feel free to use this because this is giving you the added bonus of being able to search for all profiles to get candidates, searching for vacancies to get people who have just changed job, take the company that they've come from, put it into the company name search above, and you'll get everybody you're connected to that company so you can start doing business development. I'm going to finish off now just by pointing to one other link that's here, which is my blog page. If you go in there, hopefully most people have seen it anyway because you registered. I'm going to put a recording of this webinar up onto the blog page, hopefully within the next few days. You'll see it next week. If you like what we do here, there's plenty more where that came from. I'll be doing more webinars over the coming weeks. Again, I'll update my blog list. You can register and see what we're talking about. It'll be more stuff for sourcing, trying to improve things, trying to introduce more operators and do more interesting things. That's pretty well my time for today. Thank you very much for your attention. I just have a quick look to see if we've got any questions that came in. I've managed to remove all my questions from this. Apologies if you ask questions. I shall do my best to follow up with you later. Thanks very much for your time and attention today. We had a big audience. and it's really nice that so many people are interested in listening to the process and improving recruitment for everybody. Talk very soon. Thanks for your time. Bye-bye.